Okay, so this is my prompt one. I'm Emily Davis. So here are my standards. I have two ELA ones and one math one. The ELA ones have to do with recognizing the uppercase and lowercase letters and recognizing and decoding CVC words. And my math one has to do with 2D and 3D shapes. Oops. Okay, so question one, the brief description. Since my instruction is complete in small groups in kindergarten, there will be different goals for each group, which is why I had three different standards. So for group one, students should be able to identify uppercase and lowercase letters in the alphabet. Group two, students should be able to recognize and decode CVC words. And in the final group, students should be able to analyze and identify 2D shapes. To instruct students successfully, the teacher must be able to know what level of content they're on to be able to teach on. So depending on the students, the lesson could vary of how difficult or how easy it needs to be. Lessons should be taught in small groups in order to be able to differentiate for the students, and the teacher must know ahead of time what level each student is on to be able to put them in those groups and to be able to prompt and support those children. So my definition for differentiation is that differentiation instruction is a type of teaching method that ensures all students' different learning styles may be met. All students can have the same end goal in the classroom. However, how they meet the end goal is differently with each student based off their preference, learning styles, strengths, and weaknesses. And a quote that I like from Learning A to Z is, "Giving student choices about how they learn enables them to meet learning objectives in the best way for them." Teachers should get to know their students at the beginning of the year, not only to build a relationship with them, but to also get to know their learning style for them to be able to learn as much as possible at the beginning of the year. All right, so my second question is my pedagogical content knowledge. So my understanding of pedagogical content knowledge is how teachers are able to understand the content, subject, and materials of what they are able to teach. As a teacher, I demonstrate this in my classroom by preparing my small groups for the week before every Thursday. So this allows me to know what I'm going to teach the week ahead and prepares me for any new knowledge that I need to prepare for the content. So each morning I also prepare reading over our lesson plans and our teacher handouts and preparing any last minute materials or tools that I might need. And I also like to just to be able to kind of refresh my brain on what I am going to be teaching. So my pedagogical content knowledge has also grown throughout my years of teaching, and this is my fourth year teaching. So not that I know everything now, but I feel like each year it gets easier. And things such as planning and making groups just kind of flow more natural for me at least. So in approaches to instruction, two approaches to instruction that I use daily in my classroom are active learning and personalized learning. Being in a kindergarten classroom, you kind of have to have active learning in the classroom at all times. So active learning is allowing the students to engage in different subjects through problem solving, role playing, and discussions. One of these quotes from Edge that I like was, "Active learning is when a student doesn't just take in information, but participates or interacts with the learning process." And then another approach that I like to use is personalized learning. And this quote is, "Personalized learning is an educational approach that aims to customize learning for each student's strengths, needs, skills, and interests." And that's kind of just what I was saying earlier about getting to know them and what teaching style and their interests are to be able to teach them as much as possible, keep them engaged. All right, so my third question, active learning in kindergarten is used every day, whether I'm trying to or I'm not. I believe that this is the best way for students to be engaged in their learning, and not just having it memorized, kind of like flashcards, but really know the knowledge of it. And this is really the primary use of my instruction in kindergarten classrooms. And just based off my kids this year, this is how they learn best, with the hands-on and the visuals, being able to touch, being able to move. So, and personalized learning can be used in all grade levels. So, as can active learning. This is a good way for teachers to not only be able to get to know their students better, but also know their learning style. I believe that no two students can learn the same. I mean, they can learn the same, but at the same speed and all that. So that's why it's important to learn their likes and dislikes and learning styles at the beginning of the year, to be able to teach them to their full capacity. And that's just a really great way to go ahead and start that relationship with them. So the learning opportunities, these approaches to instruction, I prepare my learning opportunities for my students during small groups. Majority of our content is taught in small groups from myself or my parapro that's in the room with me all day. So based off their academic levels is what I group them in. So their groups usually change every 2 to 4 weeks. It depends on how often we're testing or how often I'm able to pull them to do an assessment. So their groups change off, and also observations. So they're changing all the time, really. With that being said, I'm able to plan my small groups based off their strengths and weaknesses. So this also allows me to do more hands-on activities for their active learning and be able to group them by learning style and their academic levels. So on to strategies. During my teaching, whether it's small group or whole group, myself and my parapro are always watching the students and pointing out their strengths and weaknesses. When my students are working independently, I walk around with a check sheet and kind of what I'm looking for to see which students have it, which students need a little bit more help. So to manage behaviors, I simply praise the students that I see doing the right thing. Most of the time, this gets the other students back on track, and if not, I usually pull them for one-on-one conferencing and kind of just help them into the right direction. So here's my evidence of active learning and personal learning. The active learning are 2 activities that I incorporate into my small groups. The first one is a shape match. You can see it right up here. So you kind of has the outline of the shapes, and you kind of fill in the shapes, and then you have to write how many of each shape. And then another one is the letter making station. So this can be done, well, really all of these can be done independently after you've kind of taught them the expectations. So this is just, you can roll out with Play-Doh the letters that they make, and then I also like that they have a picture of a car and a cat for C. And then for my personal learning, I give out these sheets at the beginning of the year. It's the Getting to Know Your Child sheet, and it just kind of lets me know the strengths and weaknesses that the parent thinks, and it also lets me know their learning style and just kind of a little bit about the child's home life. So that's just a good little starter. I feel like their learning styles are always changing. So obviously I keep up with the observations and how they're doing. But this is a good starter for the beginning of the year. And then another form of personal learning that I do each morning is the morning bins that I have over here. So I allow students to choose which bin they want as they come into the classroom in the mornings. We usually have about 20 minutes before we have to get our day started with our morning meeting. So these are just kind of like a little warm up for the day, and it allows them to choose what they want. It allows them to be engaged because it's what they're learning. They're still learning. And it is a little bit of everything. There's some alphabet matches. CVC words, lowercase and uppercase matching, shapes, sight words. These are up here, numbers 1 to 20 matching. So just a little bit of everything. Kind of touches on the big important standards in kindergarten. All right, so discussion and analysis. The areas of strength for my evidence of active learning is that my students are engaged and able to go at their own speed. Both activities are taught at the beginning of the year, and as we progress, it becomes more independent work for those who need more support in those areas. Something that needs improvement may be the letter formation. That's also them being able to make the letters, because that's another kindergarten standard. So not only just making it and recognizing it, but actually forming those letters too. An area of strength for my evidence of personal learning is that I get to know my students better with the parent survey and by which morning bin they choose to complete. This allows me to get to know what kind of learner they are with the survey and the morning bins. The morning bins also allows me to do daily observations of what students still need to work on and what their strengths are. What needs improvement for the survey is making another questionnaire to send home maybe in the middle of the year, because like I said, they're constantly changing how they're learning. So this could be to see what the parents believe is still a strength or weakness that they would like for the child to improve on. And this could also show different likes and dislikes that may have changed over the months. Another area of improvement for the morning bins is that a lot of the times students tend to choose the ones that they like instead of what they need to work on. So this could be solved by assigning certain students a certain bin for each morning. The evidence I submitted addresses students who are above level with the personal learning, because many of the word work and number recognition are standards we haven't covered yet. So I usually change out their bins every month or so in regards to where my students are academically and what they still need to work on. With the active learning, I have my above level learners not use the mats to make the letters and pictures, so they can kind of do it on their own. And I also like to have them write words that begin with that letter. So like car and cat were on the mat, and I like them to try to write it by themselves also. And then for my students who are struggling with the active learning, can give them a guide and show them where the letter begins and ends, and same with the shape mats. Students have a reference of what each end product should look like for the personal learning, but we still have bins from content we covered at the beginning of the year. And this is just to help them with what we've learned and what they will continue to learn. And then there are my references. Thank you so much for watching and listening.